Hi, and welcome to a new incubation talk at Dutch Game Garden. My name is Arje Loop. Today we're talking about epic grants with Kristofer Klipfel from Geodesic Games. Kristof, nice to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Could you quickly introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Kristofer Klipfel. I am one of the co-founders of Geodesic Games. Geodesic Games, it's a company that specializes in creating software and hardware integrations using Unreal Engine as sort of our platform.
Cool.
So our goal is to really bridge the gap between the digital and physical world.
Can you give some examples of what you made at the start? Well, before you got in contact with Epic, what kind of stuff did you make?
Yeah. So at the beginning, we were working with, I guess our first contract really was with this company called Looking Glass. And Looking Glass is a company that creates glasses-free 3D technology. So they have this like essentially a giant glass block right in front of you, and it's got a bunch of lenses. And we created a plugin that interfaces with that hardware, so that anybody looking around the device can see in 3D. So it required us to essentially write custom rendering algorithms inside of an Unreal Engine plugin. So that they could use it with their hardware.
And on what kind of basis did you work with Looking Glass?
We were working on a contract basis.
All right. How long did you do that for?
We did that. Actually, we're still working with them now.
Okay, good. Awesome. And at some point, because that's the topic of the day, is grants and epic grants with you in particular. You guys figured, hey, we could use some extra money to build X, right?
Yeah.
How did that come about? When did you decide we needed some extra money?
I mean, we've always been really interested in what can we do with Unreal Engine? What's the next step? How can this help us in the things that we're interested in? And I guess the idea sort of came out initially when I was at a concert and I was looking at the stage and all the lighting and all the special effects and everything, and it just wasn't aligned with the music, right? It was just whenever the beat hit, the light hit wrong, or the light lit up or turned off at the wrong time, and I was like, come on, this can be better. We work with real-time engines all the time, every day. We know that we can make this better. And so then Dennis and I, we started discussing about this idea about, okay, well, what if we could control this lighting and more musical elements and visualization with Unreal Engine? And so we had a lot of conversations about this, and eventually we're like, yeah, we can do this. And it gradually developed into, I guess, much bigger than just controlling lights, and into a full product that we had sort of crafted into a proposal.
And just for my sake, I'm not a programmer. So those two things that you do for Looking Glass and lights for a concert seem to be very far off. But for you, it lives in the same space because?
Yeah, because they all involve this real-time gaming. We use Unreal Engine, Unity, Godot, whatever. Those are all real-time game engines. Right. And so being able to connect the hardware with a real-time game engine, sure, there's things that are different between, but the core of that is kind of the same. You have a piece of hardware, you have a piece of software, you have to make the bridge in the middle.
Yeah.
So that's how they're aligned.
Going forward from that concert, you thought we wanted to do this in Unreal specifically?
Yeah, I mean, we specialize in using Unreal. I've only used Unity a couple times in the past, and then worked for 2 years using Unreal. Dennis also has years of experience in Unreal, and it was just what we knew. So.
Was there any similar did you look for similar technology or plugins in Unreal?
Yeah, I mean, we're always scanning through, looking at what is the new technology, the new plugins that exist in Unreal Engine.
Was there anything like it?
With hardware integration?
Yeah.
No.
All right.
I mean, there was something in Unity. I wasn't able to get it working.
Okay.
But we like with Looking Glass, they provided us a Unity plugin, and then we kind of reverse engineer that and do the same sort of things inside of Unreal Engine, and then customize things as needed based off the engine.
All right. So looking forward, you decide, hey, this is something that we want to pursue. It's going to take us time, money, effort. When did you start considering an Epic grant?
Actually, before we even got started with Looking Glass, we had done the Magic Leap grant program. And so that was our first experience with really this, I guess, writing grants. And we took a different approach to that one. So like for the Magic Leap grants, we just said, all right, we have all of these different ideas. We're just going to like put them all on a document and submit. I think we submitted 30 ideas, all of which, were tiny little things like, oh, we want to do this and we want to do this and we want to do this. And spent like, I don't know, a week just coming up with stuff. Ended up getting none of those.
Did you get any feedback as to why?
No.
Oh,
no,
okay.
We didn't. But it was funny because after they released, or they said which grants had been chosen, actually some of the ideas that we had in our list had been chosen.
So can you guess as to why you didn't get them?
We didn't go in depth enough.
Okay.
And we offered a lot of things without really any evidence or plan.
Right. Okay, so that makes sense. Looking back, it makes sense to you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that brings us to our Epic grant. So we decided, okay, well, like Epic's giving away like a lot of money here. We can probably get a little bit amount of that. But instead of us just, saying, oh, let's try this and this and this and this and this, we had this idea and continued to evolve this idea. And it just started out with, okay, let's do lighting. And then, all right, what else can game engines do? And just kept on like adding these pieces together and really crafted, it was, I think, a 20-page document on what is the overview? Why do we need this? Who is this for? How does it work? What's our plan? How much money do we need? How, when are we gonna, when do we need these payments? Like we had everything laid out.
Cool. And was this, all of that, those 20 pages, just created within the company, or were you already in contact with other people at Epic, knowing what you had to write?
No, that was all created in the company.
Okay.
We had another guy that we worked with to help us create a good design for it, because we didn't want it just to be this plain document, right? It's just like, oh, that's kind of boring. Like, decided to throw a little bit of design there, have some pictures of lighting and stages, and came up with these mock images of what it could look like in the future, and just to give them like an idea.
And was it at that moment in time to you already clear that Epic grants were given out to way more things than just games, right? They're for non-gaming market, enterprise kind of stuff. Yeah.
So we had looked on their website and seen some of the projects in the past that had gotten Epic grants. And like sometimes there's just like Unity stuff, or like these cool tools, or sometimes it was a game or using some technology or whatever. And so it was kind of clear to us that like it doesn't have to be a game. And it also kind of worked well for us because we figured that the tools that we would be creating would actually be beneficial in pushing the engine forward, which is something that we thought that they would want to do. Because then they're sort of spreading their market a little bit more.
So you had a good document, actually, through some design edit as well. What then? How did you approach them?
So instead of just going straight in and I guess submitting, we decided to approach them like kind of personally first. So around the time that we had kind of finished up the grant, Epic had released a project that they had been working on with another company, which is for Childish Gambino. It was a whole show where they have like a giant dome, and they were showing off their end display technology, which is essentially like cluster rendering, so they can have multiple computers. And so they were showing that off in a showcase, and it was a concert. And so we were like, oh, this like lines up really well with what we had just done. And so what we did is just went onto LinkedIn, found posts about that project, found the people that were associated with that, and just tried to connect with each one of them, send them messages, and try to talk about what we're doing.
So not rocket science.
No. And ended up getting in contact with general manager Mark Petit. We didn't, I guess, at the time recognize how important of a figure he was.
You went straight for the top.
Pretty much went straight for the top.
Good.
And we got in contact with him, had a meeting with him, he's quite a busy guy. Everybody asking for his attention. And
Was it a physical meeting, Skype?
No. Always digital.
All right.
So we had a meeting, a 30 minutes meeting with him, talking about what we had done, what we're interested in building. And he gave us, first of all, suggestion was to submit the grant like anybody else would.
Right.
But then also, after you submit, send me the proposal, and I'll forward it on to other people, because this is interesting and sounds like something that we've been wanting to do.
Yeah. And was that also the first time you got feedback on the proposal?
No,
Okay.
we hadn't gotten feedback on the proposal yet.
Okay.
I mean, like, we just told him about the idea.
Right.
He didn't have time enough to like go through 20 pages of
No.
document and read through.
But what did you learn from him? What was other than it being a great contact and him being able to send him the document, and he was going to make sure that it ended up in the right hands? What were the most important lessons, I guess, from that first conversation?
We learned that Epic is more interested in this stuff than we originally thought.
Okay.
They're more interested in these tools and something relating to this field, which we hadn't explored yet. And over the next couple months, we started to learn a lot more about what's going on in the company.
So what happened in the next couple of months? How did that evolve?
Yeah. So after we finished up the proposal, we had these conversations. We submitted the proposal, and then contacted Mark, sent him what we had. He sent that off to somebody, and then it was about a month of nothing. Mm-hmm. And we just kind of like sat there like, well, we just spent a month and a half writing up this huge document. Like, what's next? And so, continued to try to reach out to people in Epic. And then at some point, maybe it was even more than a month.
Yeah, I was going to say, could you guesstimate how much time you spent on it with how many people?
So Dennis was focused on the Looking Glass project, while I was spending 50% of my time on the proposal and Looking Glass. And so I probably put in 30 hours a week for a month, just like doing research, trying to come up with. It was probably like,
fair to say, a totally different process than the Magic Leap.
Yes.
All
Complete opposite.
So then you get into the machine that is Epic. I don't know how this goes. Did you have a personal contact? What happened?
Yeah. So after maybe a month and a half, 2 months of waiting, somebody from the live entertainment division got in contact with us about our proposal, and we set up a meeting. So we set up a meeting with him to talk about, what is this proposal? What are you guys thinking? What is the plan here? And so just had a meeting with them and went through everything on the document.
Right.
Them asking us questions about, why do you have this in here? What's the importance of this? Why do we need this?
And that was when you were happy with all the hours spent on it, because then you kind of got grilled on all the details.
I had put a lot of effort into this and like knew everything about it, and so them grilling me on it was, okay. Yeah. Because I felt like I had an answer to everything.
And did they come back with any surprising stuff, or was it just going through the proposal and going more in depth? What was your recollection of that?
So there were a couple things that happened. Like we had that initial project, or the initial meeting. He was interested, and then we had another meeting, and then we had another meeting with some more people, and then we had another meeting. And each meeting there were some comments of like, okay, well, how is this going to work? And like, can you change that a little bit? Or like, we should change this, or we should change this. And so they were, throughout the course of a couple months that we were dealing with this, it changed a lot.
And were they driving those meetings, like, or is that something that you have to chase? How did that work?
It was a bit of,
because you have something they want.
Yeah.
Right. At least.
Well, we didn't know that.
You didn't get the sense of that at that time.
It's hard to say.
Okay.
Right. It was only one meeting.
Well, afterwards you got all those meetings, right?
Yeah, but so we had like the first or second meeting. After that, we had about another month or 2 months of just silence.
Oh.
And we were just like, like it's gone. It's not. And we had no idea what was going on. We couldn't get in contact with anybody from Epic.
Right.
Nobody on LinkedIn. Nobody through email.
So without, you don't have to spoil anything you don't want to, but what was the size of the proposal in dollar figures that you were dealing, that we're talking about?
It was $500,000.
$500,000. Okay. Yeah. So that's like quite substantial for a 2-3 person company, right?
Yeah. Well,
right.
we were not proposing as just the two of us. We were proposing as 5 or 6.
Okay. So can you elaborate on that?
Yeah. Now, first, let me preface with this was $500K broken out over a year.
Okay.
So not just one time, give us all the money and we do stuff with it. So
good to mention.
It was broken down into months of different teams of about 4 to 5.
Yeah.
Throughout, breaking down each of the aspects that were listed inside the proposal.
Yeah.
And so we had to say, this is going to be 3 months, this is going to be 6 months, this is going to be 5 months, this is going to be 2 months, and breaking those down into cost.
So in the end, you already told me we didn't get the grant, but you ended up working for them anyway.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Yeah. So after about those 2 months where we were just like, okay, we're not getting this. We're not going to be in contact with Epic. Let's move on to the next clients, whatever. Then we got an email, and we set up a meeting. And again, we went through the process about 3 or 4 more meetings. And in one of those meetings, they said, we want to head this direction, but we don't want everything in your proposal. We only want one thing. So they said, we already have this DMX thing, which is the lighting control. Yeah. We already have that sort of in our roadmap. We would like to develop it, but we don't have the resources right now to develop it. We also believe in the things that you guys have mentioned in your proposal as well. And so what we suggest is either we can do a grant proposal for just the DMX to start out with, and then some of the other things, or we do contracting for the DMX, and we can you can also apply for a grant proposal for the other things. Right. So we discussed this internally a lot, trying to figure out, okay, which route should we take? Because the thing with a grant is you get to keep the IP. Yes. And
I was going to say, what are the positives and negatives of both sides of this equation?
Yeah. So taking the grants, if you take the grant, you build somewhat of a relationship with Epic just because you have and a reputation because you get a grant. You get to keep the IP, but after that grant is over, it's up to you to use that to make your money.
Right. Which some people would relish.
Which maybe that'll work. Yeah. The alternative was, okay, if we do contracting, all right, we get good relationship with Epic. We get to work internally with them, learn a lot about Epic. We don't get to keep the IP, but maybe the work that we get in the future or our relationship with Epic will be more valuable than what we would do just by ourselves, just by our small team.
Yeah. And in the end, that ended up being the most important reason to work on a contract basis?
I'd say that, and we also, we weren't 100% on our proposal on whether, is this going to be a profitable thing? Right. I don't know. No. It was something that we had an idea of and thought we'd pursue, but it was really uncertain. Whereas we knew if we go this contracting route, at least we have some revenue here. Yeah. And if we can get some from there, we can move on to other things and more or less do the same thing, just within a different topic.
And I already spoiled it, but you went for the contract work. Mm-hmm. Was that just for the two of you or more?
Yeah, so it was me, Dennis, and Kas. Mm-hmm. He was the guy that helped us out with our design, and he was doing some UI stuff. We were working on projects with him, so he joined us in doing that. Started out as just the 3 of us. We had already been doing work on that project prior to even signing the contract. It took us from the time that we submitted even started the proposal to doing the contract, and the contract signed was about 7 months.
Yeah.
But once the contract was signed, we had already spent 2 months developing a lot of, at least testing and coming up with prototypes. We sent them videos and showed them, oh, we're working on this. There's some cool things that are happening here.
Yeah.
Like, we actually can do this. We're not just saying stuff. So we got into the contract, I guess, decided we should hire some people after about a month and a half, brought some other people on to help us.
Did you do that? Did you take that on yourself, or did you just
we
tell
took
someone?
that on.
Okay.
We took that on.
Right.
We were getting paid a studio price, studio hourly rate.
Okay.
So we had a little bit of reserves to put towards some other developers, and especially since like more developers, like pure C++ developers, is what we needed for this project.
How long did it last for, the contract or the work that you did? Because you went to the US to do it, right?
Well, I mean, it's been entirely remote.
Okay, I thought you were partly.
Yeah,
there.
I mean, we've been traveling around, but doing it wherever we are.
Ah, sorry. Okay, I thought you were internal.
We started around November.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've been working, and just today is our sort of at least code freeze. And then we're going to be doing bug fixing and stuff for releasing in the engine for the next release.
All right. So, today is code freeze, you just said.
Yeah.
Looking back, maybe a little bit too early, but happy with the decision?
With the contracting decision?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Absolutely, yeah. We've had the opportunity to meet so many people within Epic, get really good contacts with them, go to different conferences with them. We've learned a lot. It's given us, the resources to bring new people onto the team, help us grow a bit, and really solidify what our path is, at least for kind of the next year, or our vision going forward.
Yeah, because I was gonna ask, what does your next year kind of look like?
Yeah. We've really kind of formed a track record of us being creating these sort of high quality plugins and technical integrations with Unreal Engine. And we see there being a lot of demand within the sort of enterprise space building, and also within the gaming space too. And so as Unreal Engine grows, as the use of real-time engines just in general grows, we see there being demand for a lot of the things that we're doing. And so maybe that'll be us working with Epic and working with other maybe just companies, not even gaming companies. Maybe it will be gaming companies, maybe. Yeah, we'll see. But we continue to plan on building these new technologies using Unreal Engine as our platform.
And do you know, are there many companies that do what you do?
Yeah, it's hard to say. I think that there may be a couple here and there, but we're so niche within niche that it's I mean, we really struggle even finding people to work with us.
Okay.
In terms there's more work than we need, but not actually employees or people to help us do this work. We actually have an entirely remote team spread all around the world, because there's just these people that are good enough scattered all over the world, and that's what we have to do.
I was going to say that's a whole new topic just to spend another half hour on, is how do you work with those people? But all right, I'm going to hand over the floor because I see there's a question in, and then afterwards I'll come back and
Sure.
Hi, Nathan Daniels, Longshore Studios. In how much detail and how far forward did you plan everything, and to what level of detail?
Yeah, so not to extreme detail. We didn't say, okay, these are the hours we're gonna put in. These are the days that we're gonna work. It's not really anything like that. It was more of, we estimate the development of this plugin, or the portion of the development of this plugin, to take this amount of time. Again, everything is an estimate, right? And depending on the resources that we have, we couldn't offer that sort of information, but we tried to go in as in depth on all of the other things, what is this, and why do you guys need it? Why do we need it? How does it help people? And try to really go into staying away from the technical stuff and just saying most important of why should this exist.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I have a follow-up question. Did they ask for that in the proposal for the Epic MegaGrant? To go into that level of detail? Because nope. There's a template, right?
There is a brief template.
Okay, a brief template.
A brief template,
Okay.
which says, okay, have an overview, maybe write a little bit about like what you're going to do, and it's a single page that gives some things that you should write about. We took that a step further. Actually, even if you ask for, I think it's less than 25,000, they really don't even need like much information. They just need to know what it is.
Wow.
But that's not to say that you're going to get it.
Fair enough.
I mean, because there's people all over the world saying, "Oh, I want some of the, some of that money."
The idea needs to be good.
And I think I have to mention that it's not only the proposal sort of that allowed us to get this. I think that it was also the approach that we took. Being like going in and contacting them directly, talking to everybody about what we're doing. That was, I think, really like the nail in the coffin.
Okay.
And then keeping up with what we were doing. We kept on working towards this thing and showing progress and sending it to all of our contacts that, look, we're working on this. We have stuff that's a prototype. And that sort of showed them like, wow, these guys are serious. Like,
they put in the work.
Yeah, I don't want to put all of the weight on the proposal. It was just one of the factors that led to all this stuff.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Greetings, I'm Jules from Greetings Games. I was wondering whether you had a backup plan in case you wouldn't get the grant.
So while we were working on the grant, we continuously searched for other clients. We were always keeping our contacts going. So not only were we reaching out to people at Epic, but we'd find just other projects, other companies that we were interested in working with. We'd reach out to them on LinkedIn, set up meetings. I mean, we'd have weeks of just like meeting. And Epic was just one of them. So we had a plan of continuing doing the stuff that we were doing from the beginning regardless.
Yeah. So you would have stayed afloat even if you didn't get the grant.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Thomas Mausrel from Geodesic Games. Once you started working together with Epic, how much freedom did you still have within the scope of the project itself when it came to indeed looking for other people to work with and such?
Yeah, so because we were working remotely and we're working on a contract basis, we really got a lot of freedom to do whatever we want. The things that were, I guess, solid and locked in stone were the deliverables that we had put into our initial contract. So we talked with them, say, okay, we need this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. We spent a long time figuring out the details of each of those things. But then after that point, they just said, we don't want to deal with the stuff that's happening in your company or whatever, right? Like, you guys do what you do. As long as you're sort of submitting the stuff that you promised to, everything's good.
Right. And do you see that continuing in the future in the same way, or do you think you might get a bit more freedom? Or
do you mean continuing with Epic or?
Yes.
Yeah, I really hope so. We've had a lot of fun. Like, they're really great guys and gals, and I do imagine that we'll continue to work with them on even more projects moving forward. And in terms of the freedom, I think that we have quite a bit of freedom right now. We work very closely with them, deciding on each of the elements that are going to go into it, and they listen to our feedback, we listen to their feedback, so it really is a conversation. So I think, we will maintain our freedom as well.
Yeah, so there's no real solid demands per se.
No, I think that's the way it is in some places, some companies, some contracts, you have to deal with that, but it hasn't been that way for us.
All right, cool. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Dan Mulder from A Bunch of Hacks. So I was wondering, if you're still talking to clients while you're applying for a grant, how do you plan for that? Because in the case you might get the grant, then you have to kind of cut off all the other clients you were still talking with or something. Like, how do you do that?
Yeah, you push forward and assume that you have nothing. We didn't ever put all of our eggs in one basket and just like, okay, if this doesn't go through, then we're like done. Like if the contract wasn't signed, if things weren't solid, then we were available. And if something happens to come along where we have two people that want to start working with us, or we sign a contract and then another one comes along and it overlaps, then we have to figure that out. We move forward and just assume that we have nothing until it's signed.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anything that you want to mention that you haven't yet?
I think one of the biggest things that I've learned from this process is that people that you may think are far away are much closer than you think. You know, like we had no idea that we could just get in contact with Epic and start talking to them. And it's been the same way for so many of our other clients as well. It's like, just send them a message. Send them a message, set up a meeting, talk about what you're doing. And also, like, don't be too serious. You know, like, people are people and they want to have fun. And a lot of setting up this stuff is about being friendly and being, you know, having fun and showing some enthusiasm. And so it's not about just like, this is what we're going to do, like, solid, like, I don't know, have some fun, make some jokes. You know?
And those first connections are usually just email or LinkedIn?
Yeah, LinkedIn has been really handy. Email doesn't work as well because people get bombarded by email. And
it's weird that LinkedIn is a little bit more personal nowadays than email is.
Yeah, well, I guess you kind of have to track people down in a way.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time just, you know, scrolling through companies.
Right. Thanks, that was super insightful. That's it for today's incubation talk at Dutch Game Garden. I'd like to thank you for watching and I'd like to thank Chris for his expertise. Thank you very much.
Thank you.